G'day, I'm Lincoln Lewis, and today BSc presents Anatomy of an Athlete, a real breakdown on just what powers elite performance. From the physical to the mental, this is where it all begins. At the highest level, every athlete's body is an experiment. Years of force, fatigue and risk, all riding on a frame that has to hold it together. From Olympic weightlifters to Ironmen, footy stars and surfers chasing world titles, athletes are using data, testing and sports science to understand exactly what their bodies can handle. This is a look inside how high-performance systems are really built. Strength, collisions, endurance and chaos, one body at a time. This is Anatomy of an Athlete. It starts with weightlifter Kyle Bruce, Paris Olympian, Commonwealth Games silver medalist, and proof that sometimes your whole career comes down to a single perfect lift.
An Olympic lifter, we train for the snatch and clean jerk, which is what you would typically see at the Olympic Games. So we're very specific to what we're doing. Our main focus is to get as strong as possible in those two movements. Those two movements themselves aren't really that hypertrophy-based movements. It's not like we're doing a bodybuilding split where we're training higher repetitions to actually build muscle. Again, our goal is to get strong in those two movements and lift as much weight as possible. So with that, we can't look like a bodybuilder on stage like Arnold, for example, right? We just look the way we look, which looks like we're quite in shape and we work quite hard, but we're not gonna have as much muscle hypertrophy because we're not actually training for that. We're training for strength in the two movements, which makes our whole approach different. Obviously, your biomechanics will definitely impact the way you lift. You know, taller versus shorter, it absolutely changes the way you lift. You know, if you're a shorter lifter, you can use your legs a little bit more. You can start a little bit deeper in the set position. If you're a tall lifter, if you start deep, you're just gonna shoot your bottom up and use your back. So they might have to start a little bit wider, start a little bit higher. So it definitely affects the way you lift. You know, there is no right way to lift. Everyone lifts differently based on the way they are shaped with their biomechanics specifically. There are massive differences, yeah, absolutely. First 15 minutes is prime work mobility, okay? I need to make sure that I'm in the right positions in order to get under the bar. Contrary to popular belief, I'm not just gonna pick the bar up and put my shoes on, that's my warm up. I'm doing my prep work, so I'm doing my mobility exercise, I'm doing my trigger work, so I'm making sure that the muscles are staying activated and they're getting in the right positions. I'm also doing activation specific movements, so movements that I need for my body to be activated in certain spots like my knees, my hips, my glutes, etc. So that way I'm feeling better when I train, but also I'm having a lot better injury prevention because we are lifting a lot of weight, so we're putting a lot of tonnage in our body, so we want to make sure that we're staying injury-free and healthy. In Olympic lifting, it's such a technique and positional based sport. There's only so much weight we can lift with brute force versus actually quality technique and position. I think for me, I realized that very early on in my weightlifting career that I needed to have better technique in order to lift the weight. There's no way anyone, I mean, even the strongest person in the world is going to be able to just muscle through a 200 kilogram clean. You've got to be fast, you've got to be flexible, you've got to be powerful, you've got to have good mobility. There's so many different things in there. So I think brute strength can only take you so far. When I'm thinking about mental cueing, I guess I always have the approach where I'm sort of visualizing what I'm going to do. So I have a rough idea of the process that I'm going through before I lift. I look at how it's going to look in my head. I visualize like that. But I'm also mentally telling myself one or two things, you know, one or two cues that I'm trying to focus on. I'm trying to keep the bar closer. Am I trying to pull a little bit faster, push up a little bit harder? You know, a couple things that aren't going to sort of bombard myself and just give myself two quick, easy cues to focus on, and obviously visualizing myself doing the movement. If I tell myself I'm going to do it and I see myself doing it, I got a higher chance of probably doing it rather than missing it, right? In weightlifting, we use the hook grip, which is the most suitable grip for anything. So you're going to be able to lift as much weight as possible. The problem with hook grip is it hurts. We're gripping our thumbs, we're pressing them really hard, and we're pulling weight against it. It's not comfortable. So hook grip is not super comfortable. So a lot of people opt to do either a mixed grip or they opt to just not hook grip. Problem is, When you don't hook grip, you can't lift as much weight. So the hook grip allows you to lift almost like you're wearing lifting straps if you're strong enough to hold it. But it hurts your thumbs. Make sure you cut your nails. When we're preparing for competitions, we're trying to lift as much weight as possible. So we're training in order to be into that shape. DOMS, delayed onset muscle soreness, we don't want that, because if we get that, that's going to impede our training. It's going to affect our whole week, right? So we still need to do some of the heavy work in order to get confidence when we're lifting in competition, but managing that as best we can.
As a power lifter and a coach to some of the best deadlifters in the world, it's pretty hard to deadlift lots of sessions per week and go heavy all the time, because it's one of the most fatiguing, I'd say it's the most fatiguing lift that we do as powerlifters.
Yes! 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 Yeah! Yeah! You're a beast! Yes! Beast! That's fatiguing.
So that's why there's a big difference between the way that weightlifters train and powerlifters train. So he trains as a weightlifter, huge frequency. Those guys train like double days and, pretty much every day. And powerlifters just don't, because we're lifting a lot heavier weights. And weightlifters, it's not that it's not heavy, it's just not as heavy, but it's far more technical. So that's why they get heaps more practice with heaps more sessions, and we're lifting really heavy, so we're a lot more fatigued, so we need more days recovery.
Being smart, tactical, programming considerations, tonnage, load, frequency, really preparing the program is really important when it comes to that. Sleep's arguably the most important thing. If we're not sleeping enough, we're not recovering enough. So I try to sleep at least 8 to 9 hours on a daily basis, including some naps during the day as well, as necessary, if I have some bigger sessions like that. But sleep's so important. I feel a huge difference if I don't get that amount of sleep. If I only get like 5 or 6 hours, my recovery is just thrown out the window. I may as well not even follow the training program properly, because I just can't perform to the level I need to. So sleep is so critically important. The way I follow nutrition is I try to follow kind of like a Paleolithic whole foods diet approach. Try to eat minimally processed foods, because it does sometimes result in inflammation in the body. If I eat a lot of processed carbohydrates, or if I eat like a lot of foods that are heavily processed, for example, refined like that, I do feel my body gets inflamed, my joints hurt a little bit more, versus when I'm eating really nice whole foods that are being minimally processed, I just feel that I recover better. Weightlifting is a sport where we're smashing our joints every single day. We want to make sure that we're not having as minimal inflammation as possible. So I try to eat as minimally inflamed foods as possible, low FODMAP like that, digestion, all that type of stuff. Supplements too, like having good things like creatine before you train to help with ATP production so you can recover better during your sets. Having a quality protein powder to help increase protein levels, because obviously it's really hard to get a lot of protein in as well. I think having the right supplements can be super, super useful for your training, but also making sure you eat a good amount of food to help yourself recover and stay replenished. Strength to weight ratio, we usually calculate sort of like Sinclair's pound for pound is kind of like the terminology we use in weightlifting. But what we do is we look at how much weight you can lift versus how much you actually weigh, and then we sort of reach a formula. So if I weigh 100 kilograms and I can deadlift 200 kilograms, that's a double body weight deadlift, right? That's how we determine your strength to weight ratio. So that's a great way to see how strong someone is. If I've learned anything being an Olympian, I've come to learn that there is no one size fits all. There is no blueprint. Everyone comes in different shapes and sizes. Some people are taller and shorter than others. We just have to work to what we have best and make it happen.
If there's no single blueprint, you need a way to see what you're working with. Across high-performance sport in this part of the world, that starts in the lab. At Griffith University, some of the country's best athletes step under the scanners, onto force plates, and into masks, chasing the same answer in very different bodies. What does high performance really look like from the inside out?
Griffith supports athletes right through their journey with data-led improvements. You'll often find academics applying their research knowledge out in the field and in the lab and collecting data in real time, and then using that information, perhaps with the engineers, to try and predict improvements in performance and optimise performance.
The purpose of today was to build a physiological profile for each athlete, utilising VO2 max, body composition via a DEXA scan, and a counter movement jump from our force plates. What this does is it gives us objective data so we can understand each athlete's profile, so we can plan and progress for our athletes in the future. A DEXA scan measures body composition in more detail. We get muscle mass, fat mass, and bone mineral density, and we get it both locally and globally. The key for us is to understand what each athlete is made up of, so then we can plan ahead for their individual athletic demands.
So we've got total body weight here, 72 kilos, and you can see here your total body fat percentage at 20.5. Now total body percentage lean, amazing number at 76%.
Yeah.
So overall some really great results.
For rugby league players, we want to see a good distribution left and right of muscle mass and a significant amount of muscle mass, but there has to be some built-in resilience. If we have extremely lean rugby league players, it can result in injury that would take them out of the game.
Body fat percentage 14.4, so really low, which is great, and your total body percentage lean mass was 81.5. Overall, really great result.
I thought I'd be a little bit higher in body fat. Obviously, I track my calories every day and stuff like that, but coming out of competition, coming from such a low body fat, sort of just peaked it a little bit. I thought I was going to be a little bit higher, but yeah, I was surprised it was 14%. Ideally, I'd like to be around probably 12, but yeah, something to work on, which is cool.
Total body weight 80.067, total body fat percentage at 12.9, which is really lean. You've got a total body percentage lean of 82.8, so overall really great results.
Yeah, so the DEXA scan for me showed 12.9% body fat percentage. Pretty happy with that. We do a lot of strength-based, power-based stuff at the moment with short races, so got a bit of extra weight than I would do for my normal endurance program at the start of the summer.
Total body weight of 68.7 kilos and our basic metabolic rate of 1516. So that's how many kilocalories you need to have per day to maintain that body mass. We've got our total body percentage leads of 73.6%, which is really great.
It's not really useful to compare fat mass between the athletes. What is important is to say, are their body compositions representative of elite athletes in their sport? And I can confirm that they absolutely are.
Counter movement jump gives us a lower limb profile of your explosive power. Basically how you can distribute and absorb force through our stretch shortening cycle.
Here we go. Big jump here, Lane. Go.
Went better than what my normal score is. I think I average around 32 and I went to a 34, but I should be hitting that higher 30s bracket into the 40s. So definitely something I've got room to grow in.
Up. Yeah.
Up.
That's the one. Yeah, so your best one was probably your first one. I'd say the second one didn't really count, just because of how you kicked and everything. But then, yeah, it was 33 centimetres. Yeah.
For me, the CMJ, I'm actually more of an endurance, even for Surf Ironman, I'm more endurance adapted. I kind of have always come through being a little bit more of a slow twitch athlete than a fast twitch. I was thinking the power test was going to be a little bit beyond me, and it was, but it didn't go too bad.
You can jump as high as you can here, keep your hands on your hips. Here we go. Get up, Brandon. Up. Nice. Floating. 42.
Yeah, no, Dr. Ferris told us that anything over 55, 60 is what NBA players get. So for me to get 40 odd, or I think I got 42, it's pretty cool. Just need some extra pins and I'll go play in the NBA.
From here, jump as high as you can. Take your time between your jumps so that you know when you can jump again. Up. Beautiful.
Room silent, expecting big things.
Hear a pin drop. 34 centimetres.
I did absolutely love to see Sepha in the vertical jump really taking off, and that really talks to her lower body power as a surfer.
A few surprises come out of the counter movement jump testing today, and that was Brendan. And even though he's got a hypertrophy focus for his sport of bodybuilding, his numbers were off the chart for lower limb force. Lane produced really high levels of force, which is expected in her sport of rugby and rugby league.
All right, team, we've reached the final test, and it's a test of your endurance performance.
VO2 max reflects the maximum of oxygen our body can uptake during exercise. Think of it like a car battery. The higher we can charge the car, the longer we can go.
The special thing about a VO2 max test, it gives us information about what's happening at submaximal steady states. It gives us information about important thresholds where athletes use different energy systems to fuel that particular workload. And then, of course, it gives us a maximum value. And that relates really well to their endurance capability.
I was talking to Safi before it, and like she has such good strength like in the ocean. Like I could never paddle like her. So knowing what her strengths are and what my strengths are, I was very curious to see how we'd go and compare to each other.
There's some things we're looking for in the final stages of a VO2 max test. The biggest one we look for is effort. Effort under fatigue. How far can you push your body with that limited amount of oxygen? Can you work through those last few stages when the increase in the wattage and your mental fatigue is at its highest? We want to see that effort and that drive to keep pushing.
Keep pushing.
Feeling fine mentally and like chest-wise, like breathing-wise, but my legs, I thought I was gonna like fall down twice when I was moving from the bike to the chair. It was around that like 10-minute mark that I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to like drive here. And then that last one, it was good. That last 20 seconds, I did need everyone being like, push, push, push. Like it helped because I wasn't looking at the clock anymore. I was just closed eyes, hold on, push hard, and then it just stopped pushing.
What we're after in this test, your relative oxygen uptake, so it just expresses that relative to your body mass. You can see that gradually increase. It gets to a really nice value for someone who's playing your sport. And then at the end, we also see a bit of a plateau, which is a really firm indicator that you gave that all that you had.
I was pretty nervous. I haven't done any sort of testing to this extent before, and I haven't done as much cardio fitness in the last year due to a knee niggle, so I was a little bit worried about how cardio fit I'd be. I was so nervous before doing it, but once you kind of got into it, you're locked in. You couldn't move and you had no choice but to just push. So I actually really enjoyed that challenge mentally, but unfortunately for me, I feel like my legs just decided they wanted to stop.
And then VO2, a little bit of a different trace to lanes. You didn't have that plateau, but that makes a lot of sense because you felt your legs really give way.
Yeah.
So obviously that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So once again, shows that you gave a max effort, and then your relative VO2 value was actually much similar to lanes actually. So pretty evenly matched when you make it relative to body mass. So overall, awesome effort.
There's a few key signs we look for when we know the athlete can't continue. Beyond the visible fatigue, there's physiological data and basically just the athlete's inability to push against that Watts resistance. We, as supporters and sports scientists, try and push them as far as we can, but there's a stage where they just cannot continue any longer.
Good. Like, it's just all in my legs, like upper body's fine. Breathing, got a few head spins, but made them all right. It's just mainly in the legs, eh? Lactic acid to 200, I was like, yeah, we're on here. And yeah, as soon as we got from 200 plus, it was like, right, time to kick it into gear. Lots of head noise, what we got there.
And you can see here you're sort of hitting low to mid 40s when you express that in mils per kilogram of body mass per minute. So for someone that's come from largely a resistance training based background, you've got a fair bit of potential to maybe move into the endurance domain.
Like having the Ironman here, I was like, damn, who's gonna get a high score?
I was trying to focus on my pedal rhythm and changing my position on the seat. You know, just micro processes that drag your mind away from the physical pain and expectation, all the external stuff, to a little bit more internal and definitely away from the clock. you find out who you are when you put it that perfect, amount of pain, and every second counts as like a marker. That's such a good test. I mean, it hurt, but yeah, it was good. My VO2 was 65 for the test, so probably a little bit higher if I was something more familiar for me. I've never ridden a bike before, so it was definitely the quads that gave way first, I think. But 65 millilitres of oxygen per kilo body weight.
Really pleased to see the athletes giving it their all, their 100%. And because of the quality, the standing of those athletes, the calibre of those athletes, I wouldn't have expected anything less.
Were there any scores that surprised me today? Not really. We knew Matt was going to be off the chart. His aerobic score was phenomenal for his sport. Lane was exactly where we thought she would be for an intermittent sport athlete. Safi's was good, though cycling may underestimate her surfing specific capacity.
How you feeling? Good? Turn your legs. Good job.
From today's testing, a 12-month outlook for Brendan would look like maintaining his skeletal mass while maybe increasing his VO2 max for general health. For Lane, our rugby and rugby league power, it's maintaining her aerobic capacity, improving her lower limb power capabilities, and maintaining her DEXA scan results. For Matt, our Ironman, it's maintaining his VO2 max score with improving his lower limb power. For Safi, our surfer, it's maintaining her body composition, her VO2 max score, and improving her lower limb power.
But numbers are only the first step. To survive a full season of hits, sprints and tournaments, you need a system that can turn those readings into repeatable work. Tegan and Maddie Levi grew up with GPS units on their backs and wellness apps on their phones. The gym isn't extra, it's part of the job description. Alongside strength and conditioning coach Clint Hill, the plan is simple but ruthless. Build power, speed and repeat efforts that can survive on an international calendar.
We're at the gym today and Clint's going to put us through a bunch of different exercises, just trying to see the anatomy between both Teagues and I and how we squat and lift differently based on our height, our strengths and just little niche differences. Since we were born, we've always had a competitive rivalry. I'm the best.
We're going to do a jump test, then we're going to do some strength testing. The idea of this today is to compare the two girls, but also understand the biomechanics of how each athlete moves. When we go through for a rugby athlete, particularly sevens, we're looking for a lot of fast twitch fibers. We're looking to understand their biomechanics. Do they have a long gait? Does their running style equate to the game of sevens? The main thing we're looking for today are your jump height and your flight time, but also our peak power output. Okay, and then we'll do a comparison between the both of you.
Arms. Right. 61.4. 59.7. Okay, this time I just want you to take a little bit longer time, get your full swing, drive up and take your head with it. Okay. 61 the first one, 59.7, 59.7.
Consistent.
Amazing, very consistent, but definitely. So peak power 70 was the highest you got to. Your hands and drive. 49.3, we've got to break 50. 50.2, got it. 50.8. Nice work. Well done, mate. Great work. Cool. Rightio. Well done. Perfect.
So we've just gone through a counter movement jump. So what we're looking for in the athlete profile is where their peak power occurs. Now, the peak power means how much force they can generate. Now, what that gives us is an understanding of which athlete needs which exercise. Also gives us an ability to compare the two athletes together. For that one, Maddie's definitely won out. So we did two different versions of that jump and she definitely got the higher of the two jumps.
The CMJ is something that is so crucial to our development and ensuring that we're getting the best out of each session. It's helped my agility, my fast feet and getting in and away, not just running straight.
Get off me.
Every player's physique means that there are different things that we're looking for. If someone's long-limbed, if they're fast twitch fibre, they give us different aspects to their game. We also have the opportunity to look at a shorter athlete who may be a little bit more dense in their muscle fibres to give us different attributes. So the first thing we're looking for is hip height here, okay? So this changes your squat pattern, okay? So as you're lower to ground, okay, we just change that squat profile. Yep. You're always gonna have a wider stance, okay? Legs are longer, femur length is definitely longer, yep. Okay? So understanding that lever means you're gonna squat differently. So when Tegan comes down into her squat, okay, because of that range of motion through the lower back, there's less stress there. For you, Maddie, it's gonna be in a situation where there's more stress in your lower back. Yep. So we alter the type of squat to take some of that pressure off. For the girls today, and uniquely for them, their sport means they're both really powerful athletes. They really go through that drive out of the bottom phase, amazing. The eccentric phase is where you see the body type differences. Each person goes through segmentally and actually make sure that each different muscle fires to get that pattern correct, get that depth correct, and then be able to drive out of the bottom.
You look at the squats and that leg power transitions into axle, taking off fast and being able to drive through contact. I normally start at 70, but I can just do her weight, so that's fine. You sound like, no, we're lifting nothing.
Because of both of the physical structure of the athletes, we're looking at a slightly different setup, okay? With Tegan, her hands are much more narrow, she's shorter on the bench, therefore we've got to get those feet really firmly on the ground. With Maddie, one of the biggest things is her height means that she has long levers, long length, understanding that she goes into that grip to get that full range because of that body size.
As a Rugby Sevens athlete, the bench and bench pull, having strong arms, we have to cover so much space, and being able to be strong in attack to fend off players, run through players, but also in defence. Tackling is such a crucial part of Rugby Sevens, so there's different types of tackles, whether you're going through and using your shoulders or you're throwing down and using your arms, but just that ability to transfer both strength and power onto the field definitely shows.
Good.
Actually, no, one thing I'm gonna... Can I run it?
Go.
Chin ups.
Oh yeah?
No, we can't. Pull your arms up.
The lever length there is just a huge difference. It's the same on the squat, and we spoke about this earlier. With your frames, with your anatomy, what we're really looking for is what exercise suits that person, right? Now, the beauty of our sport is that we have the opportunity to compare two people, because you can be on the field at the same time having to do a similar job, okay? And Sevens has a similar job.
It's not like one body type is suited to one position. For me, I'm such a tall athlete and I play on the wing, so having that speed and that power, but also the height is such an advantage for me. But then Faith Nathan, she used to also be a winger in our team, and she was complete opposite. So she's small, her speed is phenomenal. It's cool to see just the anatomy of how we're both built completely different, but able to complete the same task at hand, get ad line or score on the outside, well, which is pretty cool.
The way we've gone through things today is we've ultimately changed the exercises so that each individual was able to perform to their biomechanical strengths. The idea of that is when you look at program and program design, you must think about the individual athletes, you must look at how that works. As a wrap up of what we found today, both girls are incredibly powerful and very strong. We want to increase that strength, increase that power, and the easiest way to do that is ensure that you look at each of those people individually and progress each of the exercises around that accordingly.
In team sport, there's a squad, staff and a schedule built all around you. The data helps manage collisions, fatigue and form across dozens of athletes all at once. But when the race is just you, the clock and the course, the numbers feel very different.
Practice what's going to happen on race day. After an hour, they'll ring the bell and then it's just 2 laps to go.
Triathlete Lockie Jones didn't grow up in a lab. For years, training was built on feel and hard yards. Later in his career, blood lactate tests and training zones gave him something new, a clear map of where his red line really is.
I've always been known as a super sprint specialist. So like that's just kind of been my title since I was, I reckon, 17. That goes hand in hand with sort of my physiology. I guess I have a bit more muscle on me than most other triathletes, and I've got that sort of high-end push. So the super sprint and the sprint distance, up to about an hour, is where I specialise in. The common misconception, and it's definitely something that fooled me, is that to be a good super sprint athlete, you just got to go hard all the time. I thought that as well. It's like, if you want to be a good super sprint athlete, you need to be fast. So just do fast training all the time, but I naturally am fast. It only takes about 2 to 3 weeks for me to kind of get in the feel of going fast, but it's still a 20 to 30 minute race. I can't sprint for 20 to 30 minutes. I have to have some sort of engine. I have to have something that's, you know, a bit more endurance. When you're sort of 17, 18, 19, you just do what you're told. You don't seek knowledge. It wasn't until I sort of just bumped into it where I thought, wow, this is just eye-opening. I never thought of this sort of stuff. And back in 2022, I did my first sub-max lactic test, and I was just like, this is the coolest thing ever. I thought it was sick. Like, I love the numbers. I love seeing where I was. And we then take those numbers into training. So we'll go to a track session, and because we've got those specific numbers from the tests we've done, I know exactly what my lactic should be around on a threshold run. I know what my heart rate, I know what my pace should be. So it's basically just leaving the guessing game at home, and we know exactly what we need to be doing.
Yeah, and just like pace yourself. Okay. Out of 10, the first one is 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then...
Lactate is essentially, it's almost the fatigue that's produced in the muscle. So when you get that burning sensation in your muscles from, you know, going at a certain intensity, it's a byproduct essentially of your body working harder than what it can really sustain. Especially for us in endurance sport, it's a good indicator of what's above and below your threshold, and when we're trying to race for an hour, 2 hours, what we can realistically sustain. LT1 is basically equivalent to your tempo, and then LT2 is equivalent to your threshold. So a threshold, that's sort of the pace that you can hold for an hour. It's what is your very best pace that you can hold for an hour across swim, bike and run. A tempo, when I explain it to my athletes that I coach as well, I say it's a touch over aerobic. So it's more like your 2 to 3 hour pace. It's a good sort of zone 2, I guess, real base building. When we come in for the swim, bike and run, we take the overall time, we take the perceived effort, and then we take the lactic. And we expect to see them increasing every time. With our testing, we call it the sub-max lactic testing. So we don't want to be going, I guess, above your maximum effort. We're just trying to get a really wide variety of base aerobic work to your tempo, to your threshold, and then sort of just above threshold. In the swim test, we usually do like a 9 by 200. It's 8 to 9, depending on if people are reaching that threshold earlier than others. On the bike, it's 4 minutes. Obviously the swim, it's 200s, but it's relatively similar. We would do 8 by 4 minutes starting at 175 watts, and then we build 25 watts, basically up until you blow up or you kind of reach those numbers. RPE is what your perceived effort of that rep was. So we were told to sort of start at like an RPE 2 out of 10. It helps you to pace the efforts as well when you're on the bike, run, swim, whatever you're doing. So I guess give a good indication of, okay, this is what the lactic says, this is what the time says, the power, whatever it is. How did you actually feel doing it? So there's some people that, you know, they might feel like it was really hard, but it's like, well, the test actually shows that you can go harder. So it's just, again, trying to get your own personal indication of what it felt like. There's been other federations and really successful athletes that have been real advocates of the data and sport science, and there were other countries that were doing it, but not at the level that these really high-performing athletes. The Norwegians, they basically just dominated for a good 2 years. They just clearly spent 3 years just in the labs, just doing everything right, and we all had to play catch-up after that. But there's definitely people that the data is almost a hindrance to them. I think it's like, I don't want to know, I just want to train. And it works. It works for some people, and if it works, it works. But I'd rather know. I myself got to 9, and we started about 130 per 100 pace, and I got down to 104s per 100. So it was pretty tough in the end, but that's good. And we sort of like evenly split each sort of rep down to that 104 pace.
So those last like 3, that last one I was like, just gonna give it a crack. I didn't have much left, but I mean, I'm happy I can still swim a 104 pace. I'm not gonna be doing that in a race, so I'm not a swimmer, I'm a triathlete.
Being able to sit with where I was maybe 2 or 3 years ago and just go, okay, look, I'm not the best in the world. I'm not setting the world on fire, but I want to. How can I get there? I've just gotten better and better pretty rapidly over the last sort of 3 years since I became okay with that. But LA 2028, that's the goal. Olympics is the pinnacle of what we do, and I'd love nothing more than to be able to don the green and gold and get that phone call from the higher ups to say that I've got that Qantas big ticket to go to the games, and in my head I think it's achievable. Like, that's all that matters really. If I believe it, it can happen.
On the road, the course is measured. The splits don't move. In the ocean, nothing stays in one place for long. For Olympian Safi vet, performance lives somewhere between chaos and control. You can't script the ocean. You can script how you show up.
I think because we're getting up so early, I don't love eating a big meal. I tend to focus on having my protein powder in a smoothie or in a breakfast sort of situation. I can really go from there and know and rely that I've got a great energy source for my heat for the rest of the day, no matter how many heats I'm surfing.
The energy demand on a comp surfer will come down to the conditions on the day, essentially. And things like hydration is pretty well our number one on a comp day. Looking at things like keeping up our water, keeping up our supplements and electrolytes, as well as timing of food and appropriate nutrition to optimize the heat window. Bring your arms up, hold them up in front.
The physical part of preparing for an event starts well and truly before the event kicks off. Essentially, pre-event, I'll make sure all my body's feeling good. I'll go to Scotty if I need a bit of physio work and things like that, and just do some stretching and really making sure I've got a pretty elastic sort of body.
Surfing is very unique in terms of the physique. There's basically different styles of surfer, and that largely comes down to their body type, their anatomy, and then also their limb lengths. In Safi's case, she naturally has a lot of explosive power. She has really good timing and good awareness of her body. So a lot of her training then is either to accentuate those strengths of her natural power, as well as trying to bring up any weaknesses, which might be things like limited range of movement. In surfers, that can be common around the ankles, hips, and whole body stability is a really important factor as well.
Nerves is such a huge thing, and for any sort of sports person, the nerves are going to be there and they're present, but we've done this a million times, and if I have a great preparation, I feel like there's nothing to second guess in order to go out there and do what I need to do.
The mental side of surfing and high performance is a huge one, because all of the athletes are very talented. They can all get big scores. Often the key difference in surfing competitions is controlling your state and making good decisions. We've sort of all worked out with Safi's team and herself that she performs best when she's having fun and feeling relaxed. So the key for Saf is just to not put too much pressure on herself and just come into the competition to have fun.
Finding that flow state is like rhythm, right? You're just finding that rhythm, and sometimes it's quite difficult. In the ocean, it's such a huge energy source I think just getting in rhythm with yourself first and then being able to replicate that in the ocean, I think that's flow for me.
Conte would probably work more on being in the moment, being present where we are. One of the things we've done with Safi along the way is to make her convinced that she is good enough to be there, and those little imposter thoughts that come in. We all have this little imposter that sits on our left shoulder. How do we actually make sure that little imposter doesn't rule and make sure the better version of her shows up? And I guess that's my role with Safi, to help her get clear about what the best version of her is and make sure that version shows up every time we go out to surf.
Breathing is a huge part of my preheat routine. I love to have a few minutes to myself doing some box breathing, and that really calms down my nerves and I can hone in and focus in on my breath. I usually chuck a sarong over my head, take myself away from whatever's going on around me, and I can focus on just my breathing, not what's out in the water, not what's around me.
When you get too excited and too ramped up, you don't surf so well. When you're too chilled, you're a bit too lethargic. How do you get in the middle? And that's a matter of knowing, do I need to be pumped up or do I need to be calmed down? And so she's really good at being able to work that seesaw between too excited and fear and a bit too lethargic and too chilled, and you don't get your best out of yourself then. So how do I find that Goldilocks zone?
I've really learnt to love pressure, and I've really learnt to make the most of having that pressure, because ultimately it's such a privilege to have it because it means you're doing really well. You've got to just let go of whatever's happened, whatever is going on around me, and just go, I've worked just as hard as anybody else. I deserve to be here, and this pressure is amazing to have.
There's a thing by a coach called Dan Sullivan, he calls the gap in the game. If this is where we were, this is where we want to be. We live in this gap from where we are now to where we want to be. And I think we close it with GAP is gratitude, acceptance, and purpose. And if we can be grateful and getting to go out there and compete, accepting that whatever comes my way, and my purpose is to be completely present, to show them everything I can do, all of the preparation I've done and put it together in that moment, then we can close the gap with gratitude, acceptance, and purpose.
I've managed to have people around me to help me with goal setting and to really help with my mental side of everything, of the sport, of life. And at the end of the day, we're still doing it, we're still loving it, and we're still chipping away at our goals and dreams. And I think that's something that needs to be recognised.
Underneath the numbers, the drills and the early alarms, that's the real anatomy of an athlete. People who keep showing up, keep learning their own bodies, and keep finding ways to love the work. And remember, the data only counts if you can bring it to life on the day.